This standard hype got me going back to this format. Hello and welcome everyone to not a deck profile, but rather a deck preview of the brand new Raizer deck for the standard format. So for those of you unaware, normally when I do deck profiles, they tend to be, with physical cards, but sometimes I can't hold it back and I want to show off some decks a bit earlier with the Japanese release, and so I do them in deck preview format here on Tabletop Simulator, which you can use to play Vanguard. I have a video showcasing how to set it up and how to use Vanguard on it, so you can check that out if you'd like to. But today's video is going to be focusing on this Raizer deck, and I'm going to be explaining all of these card choices as well as playing a game with the deck in order to show you how it sort of functions throughout the game. Now, for those of you that are new players or returning players, I'm going to try to break it down in the most simple terms possible so that it's easier to follow. I also plan to do one for each of the clans in Unite Team Q4, so for VBTO1. So optimally I'd like to do one for Alfred, one for Imperial Daughter, and one for Dragonic Waterfall. As well as, for those of you new players that are or returning players that are more on a tighter budget, I'm planning to make a video with a build of each clan in a more budget way. So for all the clans in Team Q4, and then if I see that people like that, then I might just do it again for every set after that. But without further ado, let's get into this one. I'm going to go over each skill. These cards are in Japanese because the set is not out in English yet, but I'm going to break them down with the English translations as well. So, beginning, we do have our Battle Raizer, which is the same starter skill as every other starter so far. So when you ride on top of him, you draw a card. However, it's important that it's Battle Raizer and not the other one, because we have some skills in the deck that rely on having a Battle Raizer in the soul or on the field. And Nova Grappler is an Axel gift marker, so make sure to bring as many Axel markers as necessary. I would recommend between 4 to 7 because you technically run 7 grade 3s that possess the Axel gift. Now we're going to go over the main grade 3 for the deck, which is Perfect Raizer. Perfect Raizer's skill is when it attacks on the Vanguard circle, you can counterblast 2. If you do, you stand 2 of your rear guards. Now the important note of this is that it can attack anything, so it doesn't have to attack the Vanguard, so you can potentially not give your opponent counterblast or, go against some really annoying rearguard like Silent Tom and attack them and still be able to use the skill to stand 2 of your rearguards, which is a really powerful effect together with the Axel gift marker. On top of that, it has a second skill. When its attack hits anything, if you have a Raizer card in your soul, you can countercharge 1, which means to flip one of your counterblasts back face up, and for that turn you can give one of your units plus 5,000 power. So if you're afraid that you don't have enough Raizers, then we have a grade 2 Raizer here, another grade 3 Raizer here, grade 2 Raizer here, grade 1, all of our grade 1s are Raizers, as well as the starters, so having that second skills condition should not be very difficult. The card is overall very good because it gives this balance between being able to be really aggressive and not having too specific conditions. So because of the nature of an Axel gift marker, it doesn't just give you a new circle, it also puts plus 10,000 on that circle, meaning that even if you call something like a draw trigger onto that circle, it's still going to be 15,000 power, meaning that it can attack basically anything. So this makes this deck really versatile and being able to pull off combos with basically any pieces as long as you draw into your one of 2 grade 3s. Especially Perfect Raizer though. However, we do run a backup grade 3 that also has the Axel gift marker, which is Battledore Fighter. He also has the Axel gift marker as previously mentioned, and he has an act once per turn skill. You counterblast 1 and soul blast 1. Then you choose one of your units, and for that turn, when that unit attacks during its battle, your opponent must guard with 2 guardians at the same time, otherwise they cannot guard. So optimally, you might want to put his effect on something that might be able to stand again, such as this little grade 2 we're going to go over a bit later. His second skill is on Vanguard and Rearguard circles. When he attacks a Vanguard, if you have 3 or more rearguards, he gets plus 5,000 power, meaning he's a 17k attacker. Together with any booster, whether it's 7k or 8k, that will hit for at least 24, meaning you can hit any sort of grade 3. Overall, this is a good effect because when your opponent's on 4 or 5 damage, you can easily use his effect to pressure your opponent very nicely, and that makes him a very usable and budget grade 3. Then I run 1 copy of Maximum Raizer. He has a Vanguard and Rearguard circle skill. When he is not being boosted and he attacks a Vanguard, for that battle he gains plus 10,000 power, meaning he's really good on Axel circles because those circles cannot be boosted, so he will be not just a 22k attacker, but because of the Axel power bonus, he'll be a 32k attacker. However, he does not have the Axel gift marker, so please be careful. If you feel that it's too risky to be running a non-gift marker grade 3, you can drop him for another another Battledore Fighter, or maybe another Grade 2 or Grade 1. Moving along into the Grade 2s, we have our main Grade 2, which is high-powered Raizer Custom. When he is called or ridden, you choose a Battle Raizer from your soul, which is your starter, and call it in the same column as this unit. Then, when his attack hits a Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and choose a Battle Raizer from your rearguard circle and put it into your soul. If you do, you stand one of your rearguards. This creates very nice pressure for a pretty nice cost because an important thing is that this is the only card in the whole deck that stimulates advantage, because nothing else draws you cards, except for draw triggers obviously. Nothing else draws you cards, it doesn't really stimulate much advantage, but he puts an extra unit on your field with the first skill, which is Battle Raizer, which normally would have stayed in the soul. With that second skill combined, he creates some very nice pressure, rounding off as a pretty good unit. Next is, in my opinion, the best Grade 2, which is Burst Raizer. When your Vanguard attacks, so not when he attacks, but when your Vanguard attacks, you can counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Then you stand him, and if your opponent has 4 or more damage, then he also gets plus 3000 power. Therefore, he is very much a unit that powers up with how much you've pushed your opponent, but this makes him very good. I'll try to showcase in the game that we play later just how good this card is, because you can potentially attack, you can use Battledore Fighter's skill to put it on the Burst Raizer, attack with him, forcing your opponent to guard with at least 2 cards, and then when your Vanguard attacks, you can pay the cost to stand him again, and he will still keep that skill that he got from Battledore Fighter because it lasts until the end of the turn. Therefore, this is a really good unit and can create some really amazing pressure. Next up, we have Boomerang Thrower. He is essentially your resource management in the deck. His first skill is, when he is called, if you have 1 or less face-up cards in your damage zone, you countercharge 1. Then, his second skill is, when he's called, if you have 1 or less cards in your soul, soul charge 1. This is really good because the deck does counterblast quite a lot, because Perfect Raizer counterblast 2, Battledore Fighter counterblast 1 and soul blast 1, High Power Raizer Custom counterblast 1, this counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and so therefore you do use up your counterblast quite fast and your soul with both Burst Raizer and Battledore Fighter, therefore both skills are very important. We're running him at 3 of, but some people do prefer to run him at 4 because he does give you a nice little safety net in terms of resources. Then we run 2 of Iron Killer. He has a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill that when he attacks the Vanguard, if you have 3 or more Rearguards, then for this battle he gains plus 5000 power. This is really good with the Axle Circle because he will be not just a 19k attacker from the Axle Circle, but a 24k attacker, meaning he can hit anything and ask for at least 15k shield. Moving to the Grade 1s, we run 4 of Raizer Custom. His first skill is not going to be used very much, so it's better to avoid it most of the time. He has an act once per turn. You put a card from your hand into your soul. If you do for this turn, this unit can attack even if it's your first turn, but he loses a drive check. Therefore, if you're going first, you can attack with him, but you won't get a drive check and you'll actually lose a card by putting it into your soul, so it's not recommended to use that part. However, his second skill is very good. When a unit in the same column as this unit stands, you can also stand him. Therefore, when you use Perfect Raizer's skill to, let's say, stand your, Iron Killer, let's say you stand it and this was in the same column, then it will also automatically stand, but only once per turn. But that is still a very good ability and makes him one of the best Grade 1s in the deck, also being 8000 power. Next we have Trance Raizer. I run him at 4, but I think it's possible to run him at 3 as well if you wish to run the Grade 1 vanilla 9k if you want to. His skill is, when he boosts, you can Soul Blast 2, then you countercharge 1, and if that attack is attacking a Vanguard, then you also get plus 3000 power, making him an 11k booster. This is quite nice. You do use up your soul with 2 of these cards, but if you get a bit of an excess soul from riding a few times or from using Boomerang Thrower a few times, then you can easily get this skill off once or twice as well in order to make sure that you have enough counterblast left for your plays. Finally is, again, one of the really good Grade 1s, which is Jet Raizer. He has a Vanguard and Rearguard Circle skill. When your other Rearguard is placed, for this turn he gains plus 3000 power. This is really good because you can call this to an Axle Circle and then call 2 more Rearguards and you'll be a 13k on a zone, 23 with the Axle Circle, meaning he can hit even Force Vanguards for 15k shield on his own for Grade 1, which is really good. Then we run the standard 4 heal triggers, and now we run 6 draws and 6 fronts. First, this draw trigger is the Perfect Shield, which I recommend playing. It's overall the better one in my opinion because you like to play these Grade 1s instead. And then 2 of this draw trigger because it's 3 minutes and overall I think it's good. I have tested 8 draw, 4 front, but even then I felt like it was going well, but I wanted a bit more pressure from the fronts, and after upgrading to 6 fronts I still felt it was fine. If you are returning and you haven't seen what a front trigger is, front triggers are, when they're checked, they give your entire front row plus 10,000 power. And don't forget that the Axle Circle does count as a front row. So when you check it, all of your front row rearguard circles, both like these, you know, the main ones, and any of your axial circles will get plus 10,000 power. This is really big because you can attack with 2 of your units and then restand them with Perfect Raizer, and then if you get any fronts, you can still not only give them plus 10k, but the Vanguard will get plus 10k, and any axial circles will also get plus 10k, which makes it really, really good. Therefore, I've opted for this 6-6 split. So that actually rounds off the entire deck, and now we're going to take a look at it in a game and see how it actually performs. So going into this game, it's going to be a matchup between this Raizer deck and Kagero, more specifically Overlord and Waterfall, and the matchup is going to be against Yellow Card Vanguard's very own Zistral. He's been my main testing partner for the standard meta thus far, and we've been sort of shaping up our opinions together. So I open up with a really good starting hand. I've got my grade 1 and grade 2 rides, with high powered being the grade 2 ride, and I also have the Perfect Raizer, and from the starter skill I draw into the Battledore Fighter, which is a really good start. Now you can see he rides into the bar, gets a draw trigger, I get a heal which cannot be resolved, but that's not a big deal. Here I'm going to be going into the high-powered Raizer and using his skill to call out the Battle Raizer, which unfortunately is going to become a bit of a pain because now I give him a prime retire target, so I probably should have held back from doing it there and just held off until I possibly get another high-powered Raizer somewhere throughout the game, because I think at that point it was a bit of a mistake. As you can see, he now rides into the Berserk Dragon and Cannon Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1 and is able to retire my Battle Raizer, which means that any other high power Raizer custom that I call will become naught, and there we go, I draw into yet another one, which is a bit of a problem. So one of the really strong parts of Nova Grappler right now is that starting first, you have so much more power than your opponent, because by being able to go first, you get to have your first marker of the game, and having an Axle marker going first is really strong. So I called down the Jet Raizer first and then called 3 more units, meaning that my Jet Raizer got a total of a plus 9k buff, turning it into a 16k attacker. Now I attack with a high powered first for just a 14 against his 10, meaning it's a 5k shield. He guards it with the 5. I attack with a 16, asking for at least a 10k shield, and I indicate that my other grade 3 does not actually hit because it's only 9k. I use the Perfect Raizer skill to stand my 2 already attacked rear guards. He uses the Perfect Guard to protect from my Perfect Raizer, because if it does hit, I will be able to get the counter charge and give someone plus 5k. I get the front trigger, which is really big in this case, because now all of my remaining attackers get plus 10k, and my other grade 2 is able to hit as well. He gets another draw, which turns off my high powered Raizer attack, because now triggers do give plus 10k power. Do not forget that, I did forget during my first few games. And he rides into the Dragonic Waterfall, so missing the Overlord ride. He calls a Ropia and a Bellicosity in order to build up a bit of power, calls an Airmo and a Nahalem. With a Nahalem, he's able to retire my Jet Raizer, so I won't be able to build up as much power anymore. And now with the Ropia, he's going to be able to build up a bit of power, because for each retire, Ropia actually gets an extra plus 5k. Now the Waterfall's other skill will not go live just yet. He's just going to use Bar in order to retire my high power Raizer, leaving me with no intercept and making it much harder for me to actually go aggressive next turn. Now the Dragonic Waterfall does not have the extra, aggressive skill that it would normally have, because it doesn't have a grade 3 in the soul that he could Soul Blast. And I did indicate that he forgot to put down the force marker, but he is reminded and he puts it under the Vanguard, which now creates pretty threatening columns on all sides. So now I'm considering how to guard this. I get the heal, which I cannot heal out of, but I do get the power, so now I'm on 22 base. And I believe that I'm just going to let this one pass, so he gets an Airmo as well as a Dragonic Overlord. And I just get myself up to 4 damage. And I can guard the last attack with a 15k shield. I accidentally put a 20k at first, but corrected it right after that. So now looking at my hand, I have a lot of options. He is on 3 damage, that's something I wanted to make sure, but he only has 4 cards in hand. 2 interceptors, but those are only 5k shield each. So my thought here is that I might as well re-ride and get myself another Axle and just drop my entire hand, honestly, and just go ham. So I call the Iron Killer because he'll be able to attack for 24. I also hover over this grade 1, but then I decide I'm going to use his countercharging ability instead if I'm able to, but I don't really have enough soul. I call down the front trigger on the Axle Circle, so it's going to be a 15k attacker, as well as the Battledore Fighter as the last rear guard. So I attack with the rear on the, with the front trigger on the rear to make sure to get rid of that intercept, and now I attack I don't use Irongular's skills, so it's just a 19 on 10, so it's a 10k guard, but it lets it pass. I attack with Perfect Raizer, stand both of them, and now he has to Perfect Guard it, even though it's only 12k power. I get a draw trigger, and I give the plus 10k to Battledore Fighter, and then I just get myself a grade 1, so without any triggers. Now I attack for just a small 13k. He doesn't get any damage triggers, now he's on 4 damage, and I think he only has 2 cards left in hand. I attack with a 15, he also doesn't have anything to protect himself from it, and then the final attack is going to come through, which is the Iron Killer, and that is game. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little deck preview for the Raizer deck. I think there's a lot of different variables that are relevant towards how your games are going to pace out. It obviously helps, as I did in this game, to go first, because as you saw, even though this was a bad matchup to me, which Kagero normally is, I still managed to win despite, you know, having a bad matchup, just because I went first and I was able to be more aggressive on my first grade 3 ride. One of the big strengths of the deck, in my opinion, is that Perfect Raizer can turn basically anything into a good attacker, because with Axle Circles, as you saw, I called the front, I called the trigger, and I was able to attack with 15 and then restand it, and you know, even without getting any fronts on that turn, I was still able to deliver a lot of pressure. Another important factor is that my opponent didn't get any damage triggers for his last 3 damage, or well, for the 2 damage that mattered, and then he didn't get a heal on the last one, so otherwise it would have probably shut down my attacks to a certain extent, because my Battledore Fighter was the biggest one, but my Iron Killer was only a 24 attacker. But regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and do let me know if you want more of this style of content, because I'm definitely up for making it, and I'd like to go over Alfred next actually, so do let me know if you guys are excited for that or not. Also, I have begun streaming on Twitch somewhat semi-regularly, so you might find me testing out some new decks on there. So I've left the link in the description in case you want to follow me there to stay notified of when I go live next. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. Do make sure to click the bell button, as well as check out the social medias in the description, and join the Discord channel if you haven't already. But on that note, that's going to be it for me today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.